Namaste. Welcome to Lunar Mysticism Vidya. I have a short video today on the eclipse that will be occurring in a few hours here. This is Beyond the Ice Wall, Defrosting Cold War Arctic Agreements and Settling Geopolitical Disputes. Now, this is the first in a series of short videos that are going to be tying together this year's eclipses to the global events that have been unfolding. Now, this goes into a longer cycle of not just this year, but a cycle that has been active since the Cold War. And I do believe this is very unique research information. I have not yet seen anyone else present. So with that, let's talk about the eclipse. Now, this eclipse is on February 17th, and it is going to be in the nakshatra of Shatabisha. And these are the rest of the eclipse dates for 2026 Gregorian calendar year. So these will be rounding out the year according to the Vikram Samvat calendar for the Vedic New Year. We also have 2 eclipses in August occurring after Chaitra Shukla Paksha. So what causes an eclipse? This is when the sun or moon is within 18 degrees of Rahu or Ketu. This is an eclipse. Now, the eclipses create these points of Rahu and Ketu, which are astronomically tied to the sun or the moon. And these are very important points in Jyotish. Now, the solar eclipse is when the moon comes between the sun and the earth and affects the physical body. Now, the lunar eclipse comes between the sun and the moon, and it affects the mind. Now, many people are saying that this eclipse doesn't affect us because it's not visible, but actually, we do know that eclipses are tied to global events as per the Shastras, and also they affect our physical body. So whether or not we can see it, it is still compromising the luminaries. Now, the sun being compromised is affecting our soul and our health. As we know, the sun was just in Sankranti, so the sun is recovering from that Sankranti, and now we have this eclipse. Now, I've pulled the chart for the time given as 1 a.m. here on the Pacific Standard Time. So I request that you look at Drik Panchang. So according to Drik Panchang, this eclipse is 2 hours and 20 minutes. Other websites will say 5 hours because they are calculating differently, but I trust what Drik Panchang says because it's according to the Shastras. Now, we have a 5-planet concentration in Aquarius, and we have the ruler of Aquarius, or one of the co-rulers, which is Rahu, and we have Saturn, Mars, and Jupiter outside of the eclipse. Now, Ketu is in Simha Rashi. So the signs that will be the most affected by this eclipse are going to be Simha and Karka. Because Karka is having its lord, the moon, with the sun, and it's being aspected by Ketu. Now, we also have Simha's lord, the sun, in that eclipse, being hemmed by all of those planets. Another interesting combination to note is Rahu and Venus exactly on top of each other. So anyone that has a natal conjunction similar to this cluster of planets, or a Rahu-Venus conjunction in their chart, would most likely be feeling the effects of this eclipse. Now, we have Jupiter retrograde in Punarvasu, and this eclipse is having, now if we look at this, we look at the aspects, we can see that what's happening here for the Simha Lagna is all of this is happening in their 7th house. Okay, now if we look at the Karka Lagna, Mars is in their 7th house. So those people need to be very careful with their relationships. Now, what is Kumbha exactly? Now, Kumbha has to do with the axis of 511, which is the sun is the government and Kumbha is the governed. So we're experiencing this shift in the dynamic of the governed and the governing. Now, the public has been engaged globally in protesting governments' treatment of their citizens and regimes that have been in power that do not reflect the public voting. So there's been a lot of challenges to governments, and I see this continuing through the next eclipse cycle. So the nakshatras affected by the eclipse are said to be inauspicious for celebrations or muhurtas. Some people say every hour is a month, or some people say 6 months. Now, all of these nakshatras, Punarvasu, Shatabisha, Dhanishta, Purva Bhadrapada, and Uttarabhadrapada, are all affected by this eclipse. Now, Shatabisha is what I call the conspiracy theory nakshatra. Now, we've been seeing protests against police operations, this desire for soft disclosure and extraterrestrials, and of course, the biggest global bombshell is this Epstein files, which turned out to not be a conspiracy. So all of the people that had been trying to bring this to light for decades are now being vindicated by this, and this is clearly representing Shatabisha. Now we also have Purva Bhadrapada, which is seen as the funeral cot or procession. So this is usually has to do with like spiritual insights. So this eclipse is actually very good for people that are performing sadhana. So if you want to stay up late and perform sadhana, this is a good time for that. Now, the symbolism is the mask, or the man with two faces. Now, this is revealing itself as the unmasking of celebrities and public figures continues to happen through the Epstein files. People that have been mentioned in those files in association with him have been stepping down from their positions due to public pressure. Now, Uttarabhadrapada is the serpent of the deep. So it has to do with the military activity that we're seeing in the oceans and the waters. What's interesting is the co-conspirator of Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, was a licensed submarine operator, which I've not seen a lot of people talk about. So keep this in mind as the drama continues to unfold. So the last point on the nakshatras is Dhanishta. Now, Dhanishta is a Marsha nakshatra that is usually favorable for initiating wars and is seen as the Damaru of Lord Shiva. Now, we just came out of a very devotional day, which was Mahashivaratri. So with that, let's go on to the next points of our eclipse. So where is the eclipse visible? The interesting fact about this is it's only visible in the South Pole, the Arctic Circle, and Antarctica. Now, if you go to timeanddate.com, you can type in any city and it'll tell you and show you this map of where the duration and the maximum eclipse is. Now, this maximum eclipse is only visible in Antarctica, and I pulled two important points here that I think you'll find very interesting. So the first place is Wilkes Land, and the second is Concordia Station. Concordia Station is a remote seismic geomagnetic climate and astronomical study area. It's located near Wilkes Land. So if we go to the previous map, these two are right next to each other. It's an area known for magnetic anomalies and a mega impact crater made by an asteroid. It is believed to be about 300 miles or 480 kilometers wide, covering a metallic mass, and many speculate it's the site of an extraterrestrial base, lost civilization that formed due to the ancient separation of a once singular continent. Now, we know about this continental shift if you read the Vedas, but there was also a theory called Gondwana. Now, what's interesting, if you look at this map of Antarctica, in the very bottom of the map, there is actually a Dutch base on Antarctica called Gondwana. Now, this area of Antarctica is also very interesting because it is home to the McMurdo Dry Valleys. This is ice-free valleys. This is an anomaly. It's the saltiest body of water on Earth. It's 40 to 45% salt, and it's called the Don Juan Pond, and it was discovered in 1961, and it never freezes or dries. Now, this area, the McMurdo Station in Antarctica, if you look at this map here, this is the McMurdo Sound, the McMurdo Ice Shelf, and it shows the different topographies in the Ross Sea. Now, the Ross Ice Shelf is what many people call the ice wall, and this is at the South Pole near Scott Base. Just to give you an idea of what that looks like, this is the Ross Ice Shelf on the right. This is what people call the end of the world. Now, what's interesting is there's another anomaly in this area, which is Taylor Glacier. It's a blood red waterfall due to the high iron content of that area. So if you look here at the map, you can see the Taylor Glacier is in the inner part of the McMurdo Sound in Taylor Valley. So with that, this concludes my short analysis of this eclipse, and always try to use the eclipses as an opportunity to study any kind of global events and see what happens, because usually eclipses are triggering some kind of event. So I just want to show you this one study. The Science of the Solar Eclipse. Now, this was published in the Indian Journal of Traditional Knowledge, and it's titled Vedic Mythology of Solar Eclipse and Its Scientific Validation. What I found interesting is in the Vedic period, it says almost all scripted wars witnessed an eclipse, solar or lunar. And the science of the solar eclipse has to do with the phenomenon of the radiation that hits the surface of the Earth due to the fast solar radiation changes. The huge quantity of shorter wavelength radiations are expected to reach the Earth's surface during a solar eclipse, since the disturbance of the heat balance along the supersonic travel of the trajectory of the moon's shadow could generate eclipse-induced gravity waves, which results in a reduction in the stratosphere ozone layer concentration. Now, this is a quite long and scientific paper, but it does give validation on the Vedic perception of eclipses and the science to back it up. So thank you for watching this short video. Om Namah Shivaya.